Hello and welcome to Beyond Graves and Stars. My name's Andy and I'm a massive film nerd. This podcast focuses on horror and sci-fi, mainly franchises and comparing remakes to their original versions. In this episode, Adam Whybray returns. You may know Adam from the Still Scared Talking Children's Horror podcast. He's a film scholar. He's been on this podcast before talking about the first Phantasm film. He's back and we're going to be talking about the second Phantasm movie from 1988. Neither of us have seen this movie before. We just watched it this morning and then we spoke literally minutes after about the movie. So our research might not be all there, but it's that, initial reaction after seeing the movie we wanted to get for this episode, like we did with the first one. I do suggest before you listen, go back and listen to the episode a few months ago we done on the first movie. You can find it where you found this, and give both movies a go, the first and second. We do spoilers, but nothing too major, so if you are considering watching a movie, maybe give it a listen, but don't get too mad with us if we spoil anything. But these films are quite difficult to spoil, but that's your warning anyway. So here we go. I'd like to thank Adam for coming back, and this is the conversation we had about the 1988 cult classic, really, Phantasm II. Adam, thanks so much for coming back. How you been?
I've been all right, Andy. Sitting here, I'm just taking in your new collection of plethora of Blu-ray and DVDs.
Yeah.
Picked up. Have you watched any of the? I see you've got a 4-pack of family films, including Bigfoot, Forest Warrior, Little Heroes, and Let's Ruin Dad's Day.
Well, that was a gift, actually. I've seen the Bigfoot one many years ago and don't remember anything about it. And I want to watch Let's Ruin Dad's Day because it stars the Right Honourable Judge Reinhold. Was it the what I have watched is Forest Warrior, where it's a kids' film with Chuck Norris. So who wouldn't want to watch a kids' film starring Chuck Norris?
Well, I'm surprised everyone watched Little Heroes because it looks like it's starring
two dogs.
Two dogs. Yeah.
Two dogs or Chuck Norris. Both of which I'll watch. The 80s, that's where most of those films were made, and that's where we are now with Phantasm II.
Yeah, so what year was this?
This was 88, so it's 9 years after the original. The original 79, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they filmed it over a few years, so I always think of the first one as earlier in the 70s, like 76, 77.
Yeah, I think you can tell that it was filmed
then. Yeah. And whereas this one, the main character of Mike is he's been institutionalized for a few years, and he comes out and it is the 80s. This film says 80s to me. We mentioned Chuck Norris. Some of its action.
But he comes out and he's clearly been working out in on the mental ward because he's looking pretty buff.
Yeah, and he's got a different face. The actor has changed. Should we do the usual? Did you want to give a quick? We've only just watched it.
Are you going to make me do a plot summary?
This is. I'd say premise summary for this because it goes all over the place.
Oh my god! Okay, so after the tumultuous events of the first film, and the death of his older brother, Mike has come under the guardianship of former ice cream man
Reg.
However, Reg, possibly unable to cope with Mike's tendency to slip between the dream world and the real world and the inability to distinguish between the two. Don't know if Reg has chosen this, but anyway, Mike's been institutionalized for 7 years, so quite a while. And the film starts with some of the footage from the first film in which we're reminded what happened, because it's been some time. Yeah. And we're reminded that at the end of the film, the first film, Mike is assaulted and grappled by some of the little dwarfen minions of the tall man.
Should we just call them Jaras, because they are the same as Jaras from Star Wars.
And Reg seemingly saves him, but whether this happened or not, we don't know. Seemingly Reg's house explodes, but then Reg meets Mike being released from hospital, and he says, "That didn't happen, Mike. Mike, why would I explode my own house? It was all in your dreams." And he sees, and Mike, upon being released, immediately hot tails it to the local graveyard and digs up 3 bodies. Although there aren't bodies, as he points out to Reg, there are no bodies in the coffins. So what does that mean? That means the tall man has been up to his devious tricks, taking out corpses and turning them into alien slaves. Reg at first is very sceptical about this and says, "No, that's ridiculous, Mike." But it's proved not to be ridiculous, because Mike says, "Reg, when we go to your house, all your family are being killed." We haven't met this family before, but in the intervening 7 years, Reg has settled down, become a family man. And Mike says, "Reg, something terrible is happening. Your family are being massacred and taken away by the tall man, and your house is going to be destroyed." And they get to his house. What do we see? But
bang,
bang, bang! The house explodes, and that's enough to convince Reg to then dedicate himself to ridding the world of the tall man with Mike. So off they go on a cross-state adventure, heading westwards, as they try to follow the trail of the tall man. And the way you can do that is, if you come across a ghost town, you might think, "Oh, this is just a symptom of industrial decline caused by neoliberal Reaganism." No, it's not. It's not a sign of that. What is a sign of is the tall man's been in town and he's destroyed the town. He's done a bit of interior decoration, seemingly. A lot of the houses, put up creepy candles and kind of goth decor, and then taken all the corpses. So they basically go from town to town using Mike's intuitive sense of where the tall man's been. They jump between town to town, and at the same time Mike is having these kind of dreams or psychic visions of a girl called Liz.
Liz.
Liz, and we actually get some narration from Liz as well, who has also been dreaming about Mike. She has a book full of notes, a diary, where she's drawn Mike and Reg and the tall man, and she's just waiting to meet up with Mike in reality. So for the first half of the film, we've kind of got dual protagonists. We've got like Mike going from town to town with Reg, and then Liz, and Liz is suffering from the death of her granddad, and subsequent death of her grandma. And turns out that the tall man just wants more alien slaves.
Lot to take in.
A lot. I mean, that was a lot.
And we'll just talk about our thoughts of the film, really. I mean, obviously we will do some spoilers. I recommended, with the last one, I always recommend to watch the film before. With a film like this, though, this is my first watch, and I have watched documentaries on the whole series, so I knew some of the bits were coming, and it didn't matter. I still really enjoyed it. And there's not, I think you can guess the way the plot's going throughout. I mean, it's a bit all over the place. I mean, there's no massive...
It's more coherent than the first film.
Yes.
The first film is almost a collection of images and spaces, and they kind of vaguely cohere into a plot, whereas this one has a kind of mission-based structure. They need to get the tall man and stop him.
I'd say there's 2 reasons for that. One, studio. This one is made by a bigger studio, and I think that's how they wanted it. And I suppose I say 2 reasons, but sort of become one of the studios, I think, wanted another franchise. Since the first movie, which was a massive hit, especially with its budget, we've had the Friday the 13th series, Nightmare on Elm Street, which has clearly influenced this one.
Oh, definitely.
And especially Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, this feels like that, looks like that. Some of the effects are very much like that. And I think, yes, we've got the same director, Reggie's back, same music, that sort of thing, but I think they're trying to evolve it into a more coherent setup for more movies.
I mean, there's more obvious lore building here. So we sort of discover that working for the tall man, there's a group of humanoid aliens, which they're called gravers, and they're the ones who kind of dig up the bodies and then seemingly. Are they the ones who pump them full of the?
Yeah.
So there's sort of custard-like fluid.
Yeah.
It kind of varies between looking like orange juice, looking like custard, and this is what the bodies are pumped full of, and this seems to be what reanimates them and possibly also does something to their brain to make them obey the tall man.
Yeah.
And then at another point, I don't quite know when, they're then crushed down to make them small so that they can sort of withstand the different gravity on the alien planet.
Yeah, it's mad. Is it an alien planet or is it a different dimension? We don't know.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've always, with the first movie anyway, I've looked at it as aliens. I don't know why. I just get that feeling.
Well, I guess sort of demonoid aliens, aren't they? Yeah.
I think this movie is an 18 certificate. It definitely was when it came out. There is gore. There is
some quite good gore, actually.
Yeah, I want to talk about the practical side of the effects. There's a scene quite early on where it really reminded me of Freddy Krueger. When we first see I forget the name already of the female protagonist.
Liz.
We first see her and something comes out of her back.
Oh yeah, it's a bit like something from The Thing almost, actually.
Yeah.
So we think it's Liz.
Yeah.
But seemingly this is some kind of tall man trick. They turn up. They turn up at a place where the tall man is clearly
he's been and caused havoc.
Exactly.
And
there's a boiler room.
Yeah.
A very kind of Nightmare on Elm Street, actually.
And you see her in the corner. At first, I thought it was one of the Jawas been left.
Yeah, you're meant to think that because they're sort of little and hunched and has a kind of black cloak.
Then you see her face, and it's her. Well, not it's
seemingly Liz.
Her. And then her back moves.
Yeah, it starts to bubble.
Yeah, and then a almost Freddy style head comes out, which is meant to be the tall man, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks great.
It does.
This is clearly the budget has gone on a lot of this sort of stuff, and that's the first sort of big sort of special effects gag in the film. Really, it's the first apart from the action stuff.
It's interesting that you say gag because it's like the first film. This is more of it's very like hybridized. It's more like a kind of action horror comedy.
Yeah,
I suppose like there are times where it reminded me of the difference between the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Yes,
in that Phantasm is much kind of gloomier, in a way more serious film. I mean, it's still got some goofy parts, but like the tone of it's much more downbeat. It's more obviously a horror film, whereas this one, there are these moments of horror spectacle, but the tone of it isn't really horror throughout.
Yeah, I mean the first one is I'd say sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
And more on the horror side. And there is some humour, but it's dark humour. Whereas in this one, we've expanded it. I'd say there are definitely more laughs and more of a comedy.
It's sillier, yeah.
And you have got that action side of it as well. And I think this is an influence of the 80s when you look at what was big at the time. I mentioned the Freddy films, but also this is 1988. I jokingly said about Chuck Norris earlier.
Yeah.
But we've had Rambo, we've had Chuck Norris, we've had, and there's a lot of weapons in this.
We get a tooling up sequence. Yeah. So early on their journey, Mike and Reg seemingly break into like a hardware store.
Yeah.
And basically you have like 5 minutes of them just loading up on gear.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, let's get a chainsaw, let's get a hammer, let's get a hatchet.
Yeah.
And let's get a flamethrower.
This is I don't know, but I'd say things like that are very influenced by the studio. And then with Liz and Mike, and that they can speak to each other telepathically.
Yeah, they have a psychic
connection. And with all the dreams, I see that is the original mould for the film, their relationship for the sequel, and I think they've thrown in other stuff to sell the movie.
Although again, that seems very typical of a kind of 80s horror sequel. Like I watched The Exorcist 2 last year for the first time, and again, there's psychic.
Yeah, and actually, Sally did one of the Friday the 13th sequels has got that.
Yeah,
and I suppose that's all influenced by Carrie.
Yes, I suppose
from the 70s. So
and it allows you to use voiceover narration.
Yeah, Yeah, I love that. There's a scene where they're in bed, not a sex scene, but they're in bed, and they talk to each other telepathically and say how great it is. And I'm thinking, nah, if I was with someone and they could hear my thoughts, that would probably not be what I'd want. I'd get myself in even more trouble than my big mouth would get me in. Should we mention the cast actually? Because we said that they've recast Mike, and he, to me, the actor is James DeGrosse, who I didn't think I'd seen in anything.
Okay,
but he's been in loads of stuff. His first film was Ladies I've Not Heard Of in '86, a few years before that. He's in Solar Babies, a film that I've done on my old podcast called Solar Warriors in this country. He was in Near Dark, but only as it says Teenage Cowboy, so an extra. Battery's not included. In fact, then he made
Jeff
this.
O'Toole did the theme song for that one.
For
Battery's not included.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's on the A album.
Oh, cool. Then this movie. Then he's in Drugstore Cowboy, Born on 4th of July, Gone Crazy. He's in Bad Girls in '84. To see if he's still acting. He's been doing loads of stuff.
I mean, he's decent in this. He doesn't have the same kind of odd, anxious energy as the kid who played Mike in the original.
This is the thing. He's got the look. To me, he looks like a more of a '90s Beverly Hills 90210.
It's funny because I
floppy hair.
Yeah, I mentioned Dawson's Creek.
Yeah,
and to me, he looked like he could be out of that.
He's got the look, but to me, he doesn't feel like Mike. I know it's been 7 years. He's lost that innocence.
He also doesn't seem haunted and troubled enough.
No, he just seems horny.
Yeah, and I think Mike. I think it's kind of important that Mike be kind of a messed up kid.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, I do go back to when he gets out of the institution. I do love the way he's like, I'm cured, I'm fine. Then clearly isn't. He's straight on the case.
Well, I quite like the fact that even in the institution, you have him giving this talk about how he's cured, but you also hear his inner monologue, and he's like, just play it like this. Tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah. Then he's out. So I think he's fine. I think I have seen a interview with the director where he really regrets and he fell out with the original actor.
Well, didn't you say on the last podcast that the original actor was a bit of a pain on the set and made lots of irritating practical jokes and stuff?
Yeah, but he was a kid.
Yeah.
So but he is back. I've not seen him, but he's back for the later ones, which we'll talk about at some point. So they do get the original actor back. But I mean, this guy's fine. Reggie's back. We spoke about him a lot.
So who plays Reg?
It's Reggie Bannister who played. So they use his own. Who I think since we recorded the last one, he's ill at the moment in a care home. He's getting on.
Yeah. And
there was a big thing that lots of fans have been sending him messages and mail.
Oh, that's really sweet.
He's really the fan favourite.
Oh, you can tell. Yeah. Like, I guess because he's quite an unlikely hero. He's already middle-aged.
Yeah.
He's very much balding, so he's just sort of...
But I think he's great in these films. He's grown up in this movie. I wouldn't say grown up. He's less of a goofball, and which I think works because what's happened has really hit him, and he has become the father figure to Mike.
Oh yeah, he's had to step up.
So he stepped up, but he's still that character.
Oh yeah, he's still got this kind of slight goofiness. He's still quite horny.
Yeah,
as well.
Yes, he is. He gets a love interest in this one, which
of a sort.
Yeah. Who we'll mention at some point. But Paula Irvin plays Liz, who she looked familiar to me. I'll be honest.
Okay.
But she hasn't been in much, mainly TV stuff. But I think she was Beverly Hills 90210, which I mentioned earlier. She was in that, but I don't think a main character. And she was in the first season of Growing Pains, which is something I hear about a lot, but I've never watched. I don't know if it's shown over here. So maybe I just know her from Beverly Hills 90210, maybe.
So to me, she looked like a kind of like Cheryl Lee or someone in a David Lynch film.
Yeah.
But as you said, that's partly just when this came out, the look, that very sort of air dried hair.
Yeah, I mean it's like they've taken Heather Locklear's haircut,
right,
and stuck it on facially. I think she looked a bit like Samantha Janus. But maybe it is that the way she's made up is very 80s. It's very, but she's fine. She's
I mean, I think she hits all the right notes. I don't think there's not extraordinary acting from anyone in this.
No.
But I don't think there especially needs to be. It is much more action oriented.
They've replaced, like, I think the main reason is because the original actor hadn't done much after and sort of was growing up because he was 12 in the first one. So they wanted a professional actor. Reggie was a friend of the director. I keep telling the director it's Don Coscarelli, isn't it? Who
also did Beastmaster.
Beastmaster. He'd done that in between the two movies. And
he said you watched Beastmaster as a kid.
I remember quite liking it. One I want to revisit. I always remembered it as being like 15 something. I think it's a PG. I don't know how well it done, but it spawned loads of sequels in a TV series, so at least went on to cult stuff. I don't think he done any of the sequels. I'm not 100%. Whereas he's stuck with this franchise. Apart from, I think he didn't do the last one, but produced it.
Yes, that's right.
So they've replaced the actors. You can see why, but it's a shame. Well, they replaced Mike. Sorry. Another actress who's in it who played what was the she had a strange name, the love interest.
Oh gosh, related to alchemy.
It's
like alchemia, or so they call it alchemia.
And then they shortened it for some reason. But she's played by Samantha Phillips, who is in Doll Man, which is a Charles Band film. She's been in several things, and now she's a radio DJ. It is Alchemy her name.
It's Alchemy.
She was in Weekend at Bernie's 2. I mean, come on, and lots of stuff, but smaller roles. I'm sure I read she was in Doll Man, but it isn't on her Wikipedia. Maybe she wasn't.
I say she's sort of positioned as a love interest of sorts.
Yeah,
but I think I knew something was up from the start because I think Reg, like, I don't know, it's sort of important that Reg be kind of emasculated somehow. That like there's something about Reg where it seems like he's kind of gone to seed. Right? Like, I think it's kind of funny that supposedly he's got a family who then are killed at the start of the film. We've never seen his family.
No, but this is. I mean, he's not. He didn't have luck with ladies in the first one.
No.
Then when the camera's not on him, he manages to get not just a wife but the family,
supposedly,
who then die. And then he doesn't really grieve much for them, and then moves straight onto this younger woman.
But I think it's because, like, you know, I think Reg has to be kind of a loner. He's a lone wolf. Like, you know, to use the modern kids' parlance, you know, he's a Sigma male. Reg.
Oh, poor Reg. But he has become the action hero in this, the chainsaw wielding.
Yeah, the unlikely action hero. So he does get to wield a chainsaw a lot in this film, and also has he straps 2 double-barreled shotguns together so that he can have a 4-barrel shotgun.
Yeah, and he does use it,
which he does get to use, and it explodes. For Jawa.
I was sticking through all these podcasts. I'm going to call them Jawas because that's what they are. So one thing that got me was firstly the same actor's returning as the Tall Man. I think he's a bit older in this, so I think he's actually a bit more menacing and scary. He's given a bit more to do.
He gets more dialogue.
Yeah, it's Angus Scrimm, isn't it? We mentioned him before. Who I think they are trying to turn him into the icon, the Freddy Krueger, that sort of thing. More so in this because I think he's in. I don't know if he's in more of it, but there's more
I would
horror
say so,
with him.
slightly.
There's jump scares where you see his face and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
he says more.
He is an intimidating presence.
Yeah,
I don't think he's quite. I mean, obviously, Freddy Krueger. I don't. It's tricky, right? Because Freddy Krueger quite quickly becomes a slightly silly, goofy character in a way, like, you know, with his sort of jokes and quips and so on. But I guess Freddy's design is inherently really, you know, the claw hand is really scary, right?
Yeah, and with Freddy as well, you've got, you know, Robert Englund, who a great actor, can do comedy and everything, and I think. If a different actor had played Freddy Krueger, that character wouldn't have evolved into what it was. So I think, and there was even talk of changing the actor for the second one on Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think with this, it's the range of the guy playing it, and he is that stern. So
I mean, I like that there's no risk of kind of over psychologizing him, because I think one of the things that some people, I definitely do have an issue with like Halloween, and I haven't bothered seeing the newer ones, but I've seen a lot of talk about is that the first Halloween, there isn't much psychology there. I mean, Carpenter is really good in a way at, I don't know what you call it, like, minimalism isn't quite right, but he's a formalist, right?
Yeah.
He knows the nuts and bolts of filmmaking, and he actually doesn't bother too much with like loads of expositionary dialogue and lots of stuff about Michael Myers' childhood. That's not there in the original Halloween, because it doesn't need to be. Like, it works with Michael being mysterious and a bit of a blank slate, and actually once you start adding in all the psychology, it kind of makes him less interesting, it makes him less powerful.
I mean, that's where they tried to do that with the Rob Zombie remake.
And
I don't mind the Rob Zombie remakes, but you've got to see them as different to the when I rewatched them, it is too much backstory, and I didn't care. First time I saw it, I was quite interested. But with Michael Myers, the whole blank slate thing, one thing I think is really interesting about those films is, in the sequels, it was like, the unmasking. In the first one, his mask is ripped off, and no one really remembers that bit because he's just a normal-looking guy, and that's the point. You don't need the backstory, and it's scarier without the backstory.
And I think that's quite effective with the Tall Man, that, you know, he's really other. He's some kind of alien. He's possibly just a personification of death. Like, we don't need to know too much about him. I like the lore building around him, like the idea of how it works. Like, you know, how he's getting the bodies, what's being done to them. That's all pretty cool. But I like the fact that, in a way, he is a mysterious presence.
And you know, you're learning a bit more without going mad with it. Do you know what I mean? It's it's carrying on, and this one's a more fun film. So you've got that side of it, the ride, so to speak. And like you say, it's unveiling a little bit, and it's almost like this film makes the first one make a bit more sense.
That's kind of true,
and I've got to say, watching this, it didn't. I wasn't confused at any moment like I was in the first one. There's a lot of what the hell was going on in the first movie.
I kind of like that though, in a way. Like the first one, it does have it probably feels more tonally coherent and consistent because of the fact it's so committed to being dreamlike. I guess. I mean, it probably depends what you want, and obviously, like, you know, it's not David Lynch, right? It's not that kind of level of kind of really assured art house dreamy or Fellini or someone. So it's like, you know, on some level, maybe this kind of more straightforward action kind of horror comedy suits what you got more. But I mean, I was never bored during it, and I think that's actually, I wouldn't say that for a lot of horror sequels personally. Like, I think you've got more time for horror sequels than I do, but, you know, say for instance, I don't know, Halloween 4, for instance, there are bits I like of it, there's a lot of bits I found very boring. That
with the Halloween sequels, I find that a lot. Whereas with because they don't try to be fun. Whereas
they're quite po-faced, aren't they? They're quite dour.
Whereas the Freddy and Jason ones, which are the reason there's all these sequels, because them ones worked, and I think they were fun. And this is what one interesting thing about this movie, right? So I'll put it to you now: if he didn't go on to make Beastmaster in the early 80s and done a sequel a year or two later to Phantasm, I think this would be a totally different film, because we wouldn't have had the Freddy and the Jason sequels, and also if he'd have funded it independently like the other one, the first one, I think those two factors would make it a completely different sequel and the franchise mark on a completely different way. And they certainly wouldn't have been, I keep using the word, but as fun.
And I think you probably need it to be more fun, because like, ultimately, you probably aren't going to need or want 6 films about a kind of troubled teenager trying to deal with death. To be fair.
And also they could have gone the other route of, okay, they replaced the actor of Mike, but they could have just done a completely different, another teenager who sees the, I mean, like.
You could have. I mean, I've got a real soft spot for Halloween 3. And obviously that has very little in connection with the other Halloween films. But I think it's better for it, to be honest. You've still got some of the He's still got that kind of soundtrack. You
Yeah.
know, he's still got, yeah, there are some similarities, but ultimately it's not dealing with the same characters.
Yeah, it's I love Halloween 3, but it's difficult to see it as a Halloween sequel.
Yeah.
Mainly because of what's come after with all the all the Michael Myers stuff, and Halloween 2 for me is just a bit boring. It's a rehash.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's set on the same night.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, not just for the point of how movies have changed, or the franchises have changed in the 8 years between, but I like the fact there's an 8-year gap for the characters to have developed off screen.
Yeah, that really helps, I think.
Yeah. And at first I thought it was going to carry on the same night.
Yeah, well, it starts off like it's going to.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because they have to not show, because obviously they've still got a young Mike for that sequence, but it's not, they haven't got the same actor.
Yeah.
So they have to have whoever this kid is playing young Mike can't show his face.
Yeah.
So his face has to be obscured by his hair all the time.
Yeah. But they've done a good job of, I mean, I think some bits might have been filmed at the same time and not used. But if that isn't the case for all of it, they've certainly done well making Reg look younger.
Yeah, and also managing to, I don't know if it's the same set, but if not, they did a good job making it look like it.
Yeah.
There's also some fairly neat model work with the exploding house.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I thought it was a rather good model.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fan of practical effects. I think the same people worked on this as the original. And I'm not 100% on that, but I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
But it looks great. It was a $3 million budget.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound high. It's higher then than now, obviously, but it still wasn't massive. And I think they do a lot with it. Don't want to mention all the practical effects scenes, but there's some real standout gore moments and sort of action sequences.
Yeah, some of which centre around the spheres, which you haven't really mentioned yet, but that's the kind of iconic image from the series, are these sort of metallic spheres, which are almost like kind of floating killer Swiss Army knives.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a while before you see them in this. And I think that's deliberate because people are waiting for that.
There's building up the anticipation.
Yeah, and then when you see them, they do more than in the first. And from what I've been told, throughout the franchise, it grows and grows.
That's neat.
So there's a bit of fan service there, as the modern term that you'd now use. I like that. And it is like, it is kind of the Hollywood version of the Hollywood budget version, like you said with Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Not as silly as that, and not as over the top, but certainly a bit. And this came after. When was Evil Dead 2? Was that 80?
I was trying to work that in my head as well.
The success of
around the same time.
Yeah, because I'll just check which was first, but the success of Evil Dead 2 might have actually spurred them on to do this, because Evil Dead 2 was a big hit, wasn't it?
Although in some ways this feels more like something like Army of Darkness at times.
True.
In terms of the level of silliness and that kind of focus on it, just enjoying the practical effects.
This came a year after Evil Dead 2.
Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, I think that's another strong influence, and the fact there's so many chainsaws in this as well.
The chainsaws.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's funny because my dad's got a big garage full of stuff and really likes his stuff from home base. I've never really been like that, but I have to admit, this was a good advert for tools.
Yeah.
Watching this, you're like, I want some gear. I want a chainsaw.
Yeah, it's and did you notice as well? There was quite a bit of alcohol product placement.
Oh.
They put a hand grenade at one point. They're setting traps.
Yes.
In proper sort of over the top, more violent Home Alone style.
Yeah.
So if anyone gets into where they're staying, and they. For some reason, they place a hand grenade in a can of Budweiser.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's Jack Daniels. They're drinking. Should we mention the priest as well? There's a.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the priest. He's a fairly minor character. It reminded me. I was just looking over at your DVD collection. I saw the John Carpenter section. It actually reminded me of the priest in The Fog.
Okay.
Actually, this sort of alcoholic, troubled priest.
He's always necking something.
Yeah.
He's played by Kenny Tiger. He really familiar face. I reckon he's done a lot of TV, but he's in Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, The Avengers. He's in loads of stuff. So he's one of those faces. And he's in a movie called Little Bigfoot that looks amazing.
Oh, no.
That's got 2.7 and stars, we talk about Halloween, PJ Stools. So I need to track that film down.
I mean, I like the fact that when this priest is introduced, you don't know whether he's a villain or a good guy.
Yeah.
But it turns out that he's on to the tall man, and he sees this as a terrible sacrilege, and that he wants to stop him. Yeah. But sadly, the sphere stops him.
Yeah.
And
but that shows the evilness of going against God, so to speak.
There is slightly more religious imagery in this film, interestingly.
The upside down Christ at one point.
Yeah. There's another bit with a crucifix on the wall and Christ looking on. So it is interesting. I don't know whether it's like meant to be that, because if the tall man basically represents the inevitability of death, right? Yeah. And the kind of like blank meaninglessness of death, this sort of fear that death will come for you, and that there isn't an afterlife, that and it's going to come, the inevitability, the tall man's going to come whatever you say, whatever you do. Like, I guess, like, Christ and faith is like, it's hope despite that. It's sort of believing in something larger than that, or believing in something in spite of that. So it's interesting. Like, I don't know how seriously you're meant to take the faith stuff in this film. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's being mocked. I wouldn't say it feels like it's being made fun of exactly.
No, but it puts, eventually it puts even though we lose him, it puts the priest in a good light. He's he sacrificed himself in a way, doesn't he? I mean, it is a bit of a trope of the alcoholic priest.
Yeah.
But I like the character. It was also a bit of a trick. Could he go on to become one of the heroes in the film?
Yeah.
But he's sort of there for a bit and then he's gone, isn't he?
But I like the fact that, on some level he's a stereotype, and it's like this alcoholic priest, but he's not wholly there to be mocked. I think maybe one of the things that makes these films likeable, and I do think, the two we've watched, they are really likeable. I don't think like they're perfect films, but I do like them both.
Yeah.
And I think there's something, I don't know if earnest is the right word for it, but you can tell that they're made by people who really want to make a film. They feel like they don't feel that cynical, even though this is a bigger budget kind of attempt to recoup on the success of the original. It doesn't feel really cynical in the way that you might expect it to.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's and you what carries these films is the likable characters.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike's not quite the same, but Reggie's great, and you bring in she's not a well-rounded character, but Liz you can relate to because she's there's not that much to her, but the fact that her grandparents have died, and you briefly see her sister. It suggests there's a struggle in relationship between them because her sister just sort of goes. She's there for the funeral and then just buggers off. And it's like, is there? Has she had it difficult with her family and now losing them, or have I overthought this a bit?
I don't know. It is interesting though, because for all that you don't get loads of sort of deep dialogue, I think you do kind of care about the characters. Maybe it's just the fact that you've got this sort of tight team of people making the films comes across somehow. Well, in the characters, it's the bonding between them, and the psychic stuff, kind of with the relationship between Mike and Liz. Even though they've not met, we assume they've got that connection, so you don't have to have scenes of them getting to know each other. Yeah, it's quite a neat little trick.
When they first see each other, they kiss. Which is kind of, you're like, what? But then you realise that...
it was actually kind of sweet. At first I was like, oh, and I was like, no, actually it's kind of sweet.
Because they've known each other in their dreams and in their heads for years. So, and sometimes in these movies, you'll have a couple thrown into a traumatic situation who either start off hating each other or have never met, and then it will end with them kissing the whole, you know what I mean? So it's like, that saves a lot of unnecessary scenes. And it's not a long film. It's 97 minutes. Which is, I think, slightly longer than the original. But they pack so much in.
Oh, it's very dense. I mean, especially in terms of just getting those practical effects in, getting all one of the reasons, I guess, I like the kind of tooling up scene is, we're going to get to see that chainsaw. We're going to get to see, the flamethrower, hilariously, at one point, is just used to light a fire. Like there's a fireplace, and you get a shot of Mike using the flamethrower just to light the fireplace.
But also, one thing I did think, right, which is a criticism, is they getting all this stuff to go after the tall man, but we don't even know if he can be killed because he's got that sort of supernatural.
Oh yeah. Although without wanting to give away too much, I mean, you do get some amazing, really gratifying special effects when they do attack the tall man at the end.
That's true. Yes, yeah. Oh yeah. It goes a bit. I've done a podcast recently on street trash.
Yeah.
It goes a bit like that. It goes,
It gets very gungy.
Yeah, which is very 80s as well, isn't it? It's just looking at the sort of ratings for this. It's only got 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is just frankly wrong. And you said that it got bad reviews at the time.
I mean, I read Ebert's review of it. Ebert gave it 1 star and hated it. But I mean, Ebert was always down on horror films.
Yeah.
I don't think Ebert could really tap into the kind of adolescent enjoyment of things, like you were talking about, sort of critics not taking things on their own terms, like you said with the Minecraft movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing at the moment. Minecraft's come out to terrible reviews. But the young fans who it's aimed at are loving it.
Yeah.
And it's become a bit of a thing. It's made the news about the reception. And
yeah.
I went to see it, and the atmosphere was a bit like I imagine if you'd have gone to a late night Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
And I went to a 1 p.m. in the afternoon screening. It wasn't that bonkers, but people were cheering along. And I'll tell you something. When's the last time, if ever, you've seen a new film, unless you were at a festival or a premiere or something, where there's been a round of applause at the end? I've not seen that before.
The only time, actually, interestingly, was when me and George went to see Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
When we saw that at the cinema.
Was that at King Street in Ipswich?
Yeah.
Now, I saw that at Prince Charles in London.
Yeah.
And it was busy. And I don't think there was a round. There might have been, because you get that a lot there.
Yeah.
Because you get the older... Sometimes when old films are shown and the fans are there, you get a round of applause. But for a commercial film...
Oh, yeah, it doesn't happen often.
I mean, I saw Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves when it came out. Surely that deserved it, but it didn't. But yeah, Phantasm II. So I got it wrong. It's 33 on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.2 on Letterboxd out of 5, which is good.
Yeah, that seems...
And 6.4 on IMDb, which is fair. Personally, but I am into this sort of movie.
I find it really... I'm not as much as you. And I don't know, it's likeable. And it does, like you were saying when we were watching it, you were like, it's got everything. And it's like, it does tick all the boxes.
Yeah. And that might be one of the reasons that critics didn't like it.
Yeah.
Because it is just doing what was popular.
Yeah.
But, 40 years later nearly, it's great to see a movie like this. Maybe when it came out, everyone was like, oh, well, they're just doing what everybody else is doing. But it was done well.
And it's fun. It's nice to see, I don't know, like, I think it feels really committed to the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I liked it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
I know you don't like doing ratings, but go on.
What, out of what?
Out of 5, I used to do simpler out of 5.
Oh, but then I can't. I'll give it 3 out of 5 because.
Yeah, you can do points. You can do.
Yeah, but then I'll do something perverse like 2.8 or something.
Yeah. So that's a. I personally, for me, it's between a 3 and a 4.
Yeah.
But I'm swaying more towards a 4. And if we're not doing the points, I'm giving it a 4, which I think is what I gave the first one. I
think it's just as good as the first one, but in a different way.
Yeah, and it's that thing of this film wouldn't exist without the first one.
Oh yeah.
So that you can't. It's not a better film than the first one. It's not. Yeah, it's not even as good. But you give it.
I think it's similar in a way to the difference between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
Yes, definitely. According to this, I've only given. That must be wrong. Phantasm 3.5, but I haven't. I definitely have given that 4 at least when I reviewed it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing if the sequels maintain.
Yeah, and it's
maintained enjoyment.
And then once again, it ends like they're not going to be able to follow it.
I know.
So yeah, thanks for joining us. Just very quickly.
Yeah.
Where can we hear your podcast and tell us about your podcast?
Oh God, well, Still Scared, talking children's horror. It's on Podigy is the main place we upload it. So PODIGEE, but it is also on Spotify. It's on whatever Apple Music is called. I think of iTunes because I still have iTunes. But so you can get it there. Yeah, we recently, the one we've just recorded and Ren is in the process of transcribing and uploading, was on Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator.
Oh yeah, you said about doing that. I don't know if we were recording.
The sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is even weirder than I remembered.
Really?
I only vaguely remembered it from childhood. And
that was the first Roald Dahl book I actually read. That one.
What, the sequel?
The sequel, because I'd seen the film, and then which is different.
Well, it was interesting to talk about because obviously now Netflix own the rights to all of Roald Dahl's published works. It'll be really interesting to see if there's going to be a film adaptation of Great Glass Elevator. It's such a weird book. So I'll look forward to listening to that. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll do it at some point. We'll talk about the third installment. Definitely.
This, which I look forward to. And with this one, it was difficult not sneaking ahead and watching it before, but we can wait and we'll do it soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed that. Great movie. I hope you enjoyed listening. Time to do the credits now, I suppose. Obviously, you know who Adam is. I'd like to thank Adam. I'd like to thank the Talking Sleeve, James Howard, for doing the music and little interludes on the show. And Ian Pointer, who, if you're a listener, you'll know he's been a guest. He's going to come back soon to talk about the House movies and then probably do some more after that as well. He designed our logo. Thanks for all of you for listening. I'd like to thank one of our listeners, Cameron, who's been coming into our work and talking about it. Cheers, Cameron. I hope you liked the mention there. And obviously, I'd like to thank Don Coscarelli for making this great movie that I really, really enjoyed. One thing I didn't mention was I watched the first movie a long time ago and I liked it. Bought the box set of the films and then just, I don't know, there was something sort of stopping me from watching them, and I'm so glad I have. So anyway, we'll be back soon. Check us out on YouTube, Apple, Amazon and Spotify, or one of those. Follow us on Facebook, and we're on Instagram, Beyond Graves and Stars. Please rate, please share, it really helps. Comment, liking helps if you feel the need to. I'd love it if you did. And we'll be back very soon with another episode. Maybe James Rowe will be back. We're going to talk at some point about Trancers 3 and 4. The episode talking about 1 and 2 is up. Loads to come, loads to look forward to. And one thing I am going to mention, I saw the trailer the other day for Megan 2.0. If you saw the first one a few years ago, it was a Blumhouse movie. It's both horror and sci-fi elements. I want to do an episode once the second one's out talking about both of those movies, just so we got something a bit newer. Thank you very much. As I say, I'll be back very soon.